The moment I realized who my wife actually was, and I mean really understood it, it wasn't the $670,000 in fake invoices. It wasn't the hidden bank accounts or the affair with my business partner. It was a phone call. Some dentist in Concord, North Carolina, who I'd never met, telling me she'd done the exact same thing to his practice 6 years before she did it to me. Same playbook, same fake vendors, same tears when she got caught. I remember I was standing in my garage when he told me, and I just kept staring at this oil stain on the concrete like it was going to explain something. That's when it clicked. I wasn't dealing with a wife who made a terrible mistake. I was dealing with someone who does this for a living, and I was just her latest job. But let me back up, because the way I discovered this wasn't some cool detective story. It was messy, and I nearly destroyed an innocent company before I even figured out who the real thief was. Before I get into the full story, if you're into stories like this, hit like and subscribe. We drop new ones every single day. I started a commercial cleaning company in Charlotte in 2019. Just me, a pressure washer, and a truck with 240,000 miles on it. Meridian Property Services. I don't know why I'm telling you the name. I guess I'm still proud of it, even after everything. By 2021, I had 14 employees, 3 box trucks, and contracts with office parks across Mecklenburg County. I brought on a guy named Derek Calloway to handle operations. 60-40 split, I kept majority ownership. He got a salary plus 40% of profits. He knew operations. I needed help. Seemed simple enough. My wife Rachel had been an accountant before our daughter Lily was born. At least that's what she told me. She said she'd left her bookkeeping job at a dental practice voluntarily in 2017 to be a full-time mom. When the business grew, I asked her to handle accounts payable, invoices, checks, reconciling the QuickBooks. She was incredible at it, like suspiciously good in hindsight. She built this whole system, color-coded spreadsheets, vendor files, approval workflows. I remember bragging about her to my CPA. Told him I got lucky. Now I realize she was building the scaffolding for theft. She'd done it before, and she knew exactly what a clean embezzlement operation needed to look like. For 2 years, everything seemed fine. Revenue was growing. We landed a massive contract with Lakeview Office Park, 32 buildings. I bought Rachel a new Lexus for our anniversary. The RX 350 white, which she picked out. We put a pool in the backyard. 28 grand financed, which is a whole other thing I regret now. Life was good. Or it looked that way. Then a gift basket blew everything apart. This still kills me. December 2023, a Christmas gift basket arrived at the office from Clean Pro National, one of our real vendors. Those big ones with the cheese and the crackers and the little jar of mustard nobody ever opens. I called their rep to say thanks, and during the conversation I mentioned how much we were spending with them, just making small talk, honestly. He laughed and said he wished. He said we'd actually cut our orders by about 40% over the past year. Figured we'd switch to a competitor. That didn't make sense. Our supply costs had gone up, not down. Way up. So I called my CPA, Martin Reeves, his office is over on Fairview Road, and asked him to pull our vendor breakdown. Now here's where I need to be honest about something, because it makes me look like an idiot, and most people leave this part out when they tell stories like this. Before Martin even finished his review, I had already solved the case in my head. I decided Clean Pro must be double billing us. I spent 2 full days building my theory. 2 days. I pulled invoices, I made notes. I drafted this 3-paragraph email to their CEO that was so scorching I'm embarrassed to even describe it now. I accused them of systematic overbilling. I threatened to terminate a 7-year vendor relationship. I told them I'd be filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, the BBB, like that even does anything, and recommending every business owner in my network drop them immediately. I was righteous. I was certain. I had my mouse hovering over the send button, and I felt like a man who was about to fix a serious problem. I was also completely, dangerously wrong. Martin called me, I think it was around 3 p.m. on a Thursday, maybe 15 minutes before I was going to click send. He said, hold on, the numbers don't point where you think they point. He'd finished the vendor breakdown and found the real problem. Our supply costs were running 31% of revenue when the industry average is 18 to 22. But the overage wasn't coming from Clean Pro. Almost all of it was coming from a single vendor I'd never heard of. Apex Industrial Supply. If I'd clicked send on that email and I was so close I had my hand on the mouse, three things would have happened. First, I would have destroyed a relationship with an innocent company that had been a loyal vendor for 7 years. Their rep, a guy named Doug, had personally covered for us during a supply shortage in 2020, pulling strings to make sure we got what we needed when everyone else was backordered. Second, I would have tipped off the real thieves. Rachel handled all vendor communications. A dispute with Clean Pro would have landed on her desk within hours, and she would have known immediately that I was going through the books. Everything would have been wiped overnight. And third, I would have looked completely unhinged. A business owner sending wild accusations to the wrong company while his own wife was sitting 10 feet away stealing him blind. That's what bugs me about the way these stories get told online, like the betrayed person is always calm and calculated from minute one. I wasn't. I was a panicking business owner about to nuke an innocent company while the real criminals sat across from me at the dinner table. Sometimes the only difference between justice and total disaster is a phone call that comes 15 minutes before you do something you can't take back. Once Martin isolated Apex, I looked them up. No website, no Google business listing, no reviews, nothing. The address on the invoices was a UPS store mailbox on South Boulevard, the one next to that Firehouse Subs. The phone number went to a prepaid voicemail that was full. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there staring at the ceiling fan going around. Martin referred me to a forensic accountant named Patricia Chen. Best decision I ever made, and I'm including my marriage in that comparison, which should tell you something. She spent 3 weeks on the preliminary review and then sat me down with 2 folders. First folder, 347 invoices from Apex Industrial Supply over 26 months. Total $670,412. Every single one signed off by Rachel. The checks went to a business account registered to Apex Industrial Supply LLC, incorporated in Delaware, which, if you don't know, is where you incorporate when you don't want anyone looking too hard at it. The registered agent was Derek's cousin. I expected something like that. Derek and Rachel working together. An affair and a theft. Fine. Gut punch, but I thought I had the shape of it. Then Patricia opened the second folder. She traced a third account receiving transfers from the Apex account. Not Derek's personal account. Not Rachel's own hidden account under her maiden name, which, yes, she had one of those too, and no, I had no idea. A third account belonging to a woman named Gloria Dunlap. Rachel's mother. Gloria had been receiving between $2,000 and $3,000 a month since the scheme started. 26 months of steady payments. To my mother-in-law. I just sat there. Gloria used to watch Lily on Wednesday afternoons. She sat in my kitchen and drank the coffee I bought, Trader Joe's medium roast. If you're curious, she was very specific about it, and she'd ask me how the business was going. She told me she was proud of what I'd built. She said I was a good provider. And the entire time, her daughter was draining my accounts and cutting Gloria a share every single month. I started thinking about all those family dinners. All those birthday parties where Gloria hugged me and said she was so glad Rachel found someone like me. I went back through old text messages between Rachel and Gloria. Nothing obviously criminal on the surface, but there were patterns once you knew what to look for. Gloria asking if everything went through this month. Rachel replying taken care of. Mentions of the payment for the thing that neither of them ever specified. Once you had the key, the coded language was everywhere, buried between messages about Lily's school schedule and what to bring to Thanksgiving. This wasn't a daughter confiding in her mother after the fact. Gloria was part of the operation from the start. This was a family business, but Patricia still wasn't done. And this is where, look, I've had months to process this and I still don't fully know what to do with it. She'd done something I hadn't asked her to do. She'd looked into Rachel's employment history. Rachel told me she left her bookkeeping job at Brightside Family Dental in Concord voluntarily in 2017, right when Lily was born. That was a lie. Patricia had contacted the practice. The office manager remembered Rachel immediately. They'd discovered roughly $40,000 in irregularities in their accounts payable during Rachel's last year there. Vendors that didn't exist. Invoices that didn't match deliveries. Same exact playbook she ran on me, just smaller. They didn't prosecute. The practice owner, a dentist named Dr. Alan Voorhees, didn't want the publicity and couldn't prove everything definitively. They asked Rachel to resign, and she signed a non-disclosure agreement with a small severance. Walked away clean. My wife didn't leave her job to raise our daughter. She left because she got caught doing the exact same thing she was doing to me. She'd had a practice run, a dress rehearsal, and then she brought the perfected version home. Here's what keeps me up at night about the timeline. We married in 2013. She started at the dental practice in 2015. She was running that scheme by 2016. Lily was born in 2017, same year she got caught and had to resign. Which means for years of our marriage, she was already doing this, perfecting her methods on someone else's books while coming home to me every night. And when my business started growing and I needed a bookkeeper, she already knew exactly how to set it up. She'd run the rehearsal. I have to wonder now, and I hate that I think this way, whether the bookkeeping background was part of why she was interested in a guy starting his own business. A guy who would eventually need someone to handle the money. Maybe I'm being paranoid. I'll never know for sure. But the pattern Patricia laid out was brutal. Rachel wasn't the naive wife who got pulled into something by a smooth-talking business partner. Rachel was the architect. She'd done this before. She'd built the same fake vendor pipeline at a different company. She'd brought her own mother in as a silent partner. And the evidence showed she was the one driving the escalation. There was a 3-month gap in the Apex invoices in late 2022, right around when Derek started seeing someone else and pulling back from Rachel. When they reconnected in early 2023, the invoices didn't just resume. They doubled. Rachel restarted the scheme at twice the rate. She was the engine. Derek was the vehicle. The affair was just how she kept him locked in. Now here's the part of this that I think people need to hear, even though nobody wants to. Everyone loves the patient revenge fantasy. The wronged man who goes cold plays the long game, builds an airtight case, and drops the hammer in one perfect move. I did that. 4 months of pretending everything was normal while my forensic accountant and my attorney assembled the case. And I need to tell you what those 4 months actually felt like, because it wasn't some empowering montage. Not even close. The first thing I lost was Marcus Webb. Marcus was my best crew leader. Been with me 6 years, since back when it was just the two of us and a pressure washer doing strip mall parking lots at 5 in the morning. He trained half my current workforce. Every client specifically requested his team. He was the backbone of my operation, and he knew it not in an arrogant way but in that quiet, solid way where everyone just works harder because he's there. Marcus could tell something was wrong with me. I was distracted, short-tempered, disappearing for meetings I wouldn't explain. Coming in looking like I hadn't slept, which I mostly hadn't. Twice he pulled me aside and straight up asked me if the company was in trouble. He wasn't being nosy. He had a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage, and he needed to know if his livelihood was about to evaporate. Both times I looked him in the eye and said everything was fine. I had to. I couldn't tell him the truth because if word got back to Rachel or Derek even once, the entire case fell apart. Every invoice, every account trace, every document Patricia had assembled, all of it depended on them not knowing I knew. Marcus took a job with a competitor in July. I found out from his 2-week notice email. He didn't leave for more money. He left because he'd watched me fall apart for months. I wouldn't tell him why, and he concluded the company was going under and I didn't respect him enough to be straight with him. I lost the best employee I ever had because the long game required me to lie to people who deserved the truth. After Marcus left, I spent a weekend calling my other crew leaders to make sure nobody else was about to bail. Every conversation felt like defusing a bomb while wearing oven mitts. I couldn't explain why I'd been acting strange. I just had to ask them to trust me a little longer. 2 of them said they would. One gave me this look, I can still see it, that told me he already had his resume on Indeed. That weekend, I sat in my truck in the driveway for probably an hour, running numbers on how many more people I could lose before the company physically couldn't service our contracts. Then I almost lost Lakeview. 32 buildings. Our biggest account by a mile, the one keeping the entire company solvent while $670,000 was being siphoned out the back. The property manager called me into her office, nice woman, very professional about it, which almost made it worse, and showed me quality scores that had dropped 3 months in a row. Formal written warning. 1 more bad quarter and we were done. I was so consumed with managing the investigation, with holding myself together in front of Rachel every evening, passing the salt, asking about her day, watching TV together on the couch like everything was normal, that I'd taken my eye off the actual business. The thing I'd built from nothing. The thing that was supposed to be my family's future. 4 months of playing it cool nearly killed the company while I was busy trying to save it. And then there was Lily. One night during those 4 months, I was tucking her in. She was 6. She grabbed my face with both her hands, little kid hands, sticky from whatever she'd been eating, and held it so I couldn't look away. She said, "Daddy, why are you always sad now?" I told her I was just tired from work. She shook her head. She said, "You're not tired. You're sad. I don't like it." I held it together until I got to the hallway. Then I pressed my back against the wall and put my hand over my mouth and stood there for I don't know how long, trying not to make a sound. 5 minutes, maybe more. My 6-year-old could see through me better than I could see through my own wife. She'd spent 4 months watching her father fall apart in slow motion, and she didn't understand why, and nobody would explain it to her. She just knew something was wrong with the person she trusted most in the world. So yeah, I played the long game. I got the legal outcome. But the long game isn't the power fantasy people make it out to be. It's more like a hostage negotiation with your own life, and you pay the ransom in time you never get back and damage to people who didn't deserve any of it. I retained a criminal attorney named David Park, former prosecutor, knew exactly what the DA's office needed and how they liked it packaged. He and Patricia put everything together. The forensic report, the bank records, the Apex corporate filings, the dental practice history, Gloria's account, the evidence that Rachel, not Derek, was the primary organizer. A timeline showing how the fraud escalated from $1,200 a month to over $40,000. David walked it into the Mecklenburg County DA's office in August. The assistant DA called back in 48 hours, which David said was fast, and told him the prior offense pattern would be significant at sentencing. During those months, I also filed for divorce. Moved 60% of our joint savings into a trust for Lily. Had my business attorney exercise a removal clause to strip Derek of his ownership stake under the gross misconduct provision, which, thank God I had that clause in the operating agreement because my original draft didn't include it and my lawyer insisted. Hired a licensed CPA named Sandra to quietly take over the books so Rachel wouldn't notice the handoff until it was too late. The arrest happened on a Thursday in September. I'm going to keep this part short because of the active case. Rachel and Derek were together when detectives found them. They were arrested simultaneously. Derek went white and didn't say a word. Rachel started trying to negotiate before she was even in the car. And honestly, that told me everything about how she'd gotten this far. Talking is her instrument. It's the thing she's best at in the world. She talked Dr. Voorhees out of pressing charges. She talked me into handing her the keys to my accounts payable. She talked Derek into risking his career and his marriage for her. It just doesn't work on handcuffs. Derek was charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. Rachel was charged with embezzlement, conspiracy, and fraud, with enhanced charges as a repeat offender because of the Brightside dental history. Tax evasion referrals were added for both. Derek is looking at 5 to 8 years. Rachel is facing 7 to 12 because of the repeat offender enhancement. Her attorney is fighting it, arguing the prior case was never formally prosecuted. The judge hasn't ruled on that yet. 3 days after the arrest, Rachel sent me a handwritten letter. 3 pages front and back in that loopy handwriting of hers. I won't quote the whole thing, but one line told me everything I needed to know about who I'd been married to for 11 years. She wrote, "I know you think this was about Derek or about the money. It wasn't. I never felt safe. Not when I was growing up, not with you, not ever. The money was the only thing that made the fear stop." I sat with that letter for a long time. At the kitchen table, after Lily was asleep. Rachel grew up poor. Her dad left when she was 9. Gloria worked 2 jobs and they still lost their house when Rachel was in middle school. I knew all of this when I married her. And for one moment, reading that letter, I felt something that wasn't anger. But then I thought about Dr. Voorhees. And that brings us to the phone call I told you about at the start. After Patricia found the Brightside connection, I'd called him. He's a quiet guy, soft-spoken, been running his practice for over 20 years. He told me that when Rachel resigned, she cried in his office and said she'd made a terrible mistake and it would never happen again. He believed her. He said he'd felt guilty for years about not giving her a second chance, wondering if he'd overreacted, wondering if he'd ruined a young mother's career over something she would have grown out of. He said her ate at him. He'd almost called her twice to apologize. When I told him what she'd done to me, the full scope, the $670,000, the fake company, the 26 months, the hidden accounts, there was a long pause on the phone. Then he said, "I'm glad I'm not the only one she fooled." That one sentence, I keep coming back to it, because it reframes everything. Dr. Voorhees gave Rachel mercy. He let her walk away without a criminal record. He absorbed the $40,000 loss himself and carried around years of guilt wondering if he'd been too harsh. He gave her exactly the kind of second chance that's supposed to change someone's trajectory. And she took that mercy, took the clean record he handed her, and used the freedom it gave her to do the exact same thing to me at 17 times the scale. She didn't grow out of it. She grew into it. That's not desperation. That's someone getting better at their job. Understanding why someone becomes who they are doesn't make what they do okay. Rachel's childhood was hard. Gloria's choices made some kind of sense if you squinted at them through the lens of poverty and fear. But plenty of people grow up poor without building a multi-generational fraud operation and weaponizing their family. At some point, the explanation stops being a reason and starts being a sales pitch. And I think that handwritten letter was the same thing Rachel has always done. One more performance, one more try at talking her way through. She just didn't realize she'd finally run out of audience. The divorce was finalized in November. The judge awarded me sole ownership of the house, full custody of Lily, and Rachel was ordered to pay restitution in both the criminal and civil proceedings. She moved in with her sister in Gastonia. Gloria hasn't spoken to me since the arrests. Derek's wife, Megan, who had absolutely no idea about any of it, filed for divorce the same week he was arrested. She reached out to me through a mutual friend, and we talked for about an hour. Just two people sitting in the wreckage of the same explosion, trying to figure out what the hell happened. My company survived. Barely. Revenue dropped about 20% while I was dealing with everything. I lost Marcus. I almost lost Lakeview. I personally worked crews for 2 months straight, showing up at 5 a.m. doing the physical work, something I hadn't done regularly in 2 years, just to keep quality scores from cratering further. Sandra got the books clean. Supply costs are back to 21%. I hired 2 new crew leaders. They are good. We're recovering. But there's a Marcus-shaped hole in my operation that no amount of hiring has filled. Last month a client asked where Marcus went, and I didn't have an answer that didn't make me feel sick. Lily is 7 now. She doesn't know the details, just that mommy and daddy aren't together anymore and that mommy made some bad choices. I take her to see Rachel every other weekend. I won't use my daughter as a weapon, no matter what her mother did. That's a line I decided on early, and I'm not crossing it. Last week Lily drew a picture of our house with just the 2 of us standing out front. She put a big sun in the corner with a smiley face on it. I stuck it on the fridge and stared at it for probably 10 minutes, thinking about everything that picture doesn't include and how many years I have before she asks me to fill in the blanks. If you'd asked me 6 months ago whether the long game was worth it, I would have given you the whole speech. Patience wins. Justice served. The system works if you feed it the right evidence. And that's all true. The legal outcome was the right one. Rachel is facing real consequences for the first time in her life because Dr. Voorhees couldn't bring himself to give her those consequences when he had the chance, and I decided I would. But I paid for that outcome in ways that don't show up in court filings. Marcus is gone. Lakeview almost walked. My daughter spent 4 months watching her father become someone she didn't recognize. I chose the path that gave me the strongest legal result, and it cost me things I can never get back. It wasn't revenge. It was a trade. And some days I honestly don't know if I came out ahead. So if you're going through something like this, and God, I hope you're not, but statistically some of you are, here's what I'd actually tell you. Get a forensic accountant before you confront anyone. Don't play detective yourself, you'll accuse the wrong person like I almost did. Get a lawyer who used to be a prosecutor. Protect your kids first, your business second, your pride dead last. And dig into the history. Because if someone is doing this to you, there is a real chance you're not the first. They've done it before. They've refined it. And somewhere out there is another person like Dr. Voorhees sitting with years of misplaced guilt who would feel a lot less alone if they knew the truth. Understand that whichever path you take, fast or slow, loud or quiet, you're going to lose something that matters. The only question is whether you can live with what you keep. Derek tried to reach out last month through a mutual friend, asking me to drop the civil suit. I didn't respond. Don't plan to. And Dr. Voorhees told me something in our last conversation that I think about every day. He said the hardest part wasn't the money she took. It was realizing I'd spent years feeling guilty about someone who never spent a single second feeling guilty about me. Yeah, that about covers it. So let me ask you something. If you found out someone hadn't just betrayed you once but had a pattern going back years, that they'd done this before and someone else had given them mercy, and they used that mercy to come after you even harder, does that change how you see it? Does it make you angrier? Or does it just make you realize it was never really about you at all? Let me know in the comments.